Hello, everyone. This is Anna Pacheco with SantaFe101.com. My guest this afternoon is Kathy Hendrickson. Kathy, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Yes, you do.
Oh, good. Well, I thought it would be important to have you on the show today because you are basically an expert about Las Vegas, New Mexico, and parts of San Miguel County. And I know right now you're studying to become a realtor, but you have a tour business in Las Vegas, and I thought you would, and you do a lot of tours for people that are moving into town. So I thought you'd be the ideal person to interview about Las Vegas, New Mexico. So I guess. First of all, tell me how long you've been in New Mexico. I think you have had an interesting past. You lived in Kuwait or something. So tell me a little bit about your background, your experience with the tours, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thanks, Anna. I've had an interesting background. I'm born and raised in the Midwest, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then moved to Florida. I lived in Florida for about 30 years. And then from there, we moved to the Middle East. We moved to Kuwait, and I actually did work over there. I used to be an artistic educator with L'Oreal. I opened up a salon in Kuwait. I became the president of the Kuwait Textile Arts Association while I was there, got involved in a lot of different things. And so it was quite an adventure. It was really a great experience. And from there, we moved here to New Mexico, and we found Las Vegas, New Mexico. We looked in Santa Fe, but it was a little too pricey for us at the time. And so when we looked around, we drove into Las Vegas, and I told my husband, I think this is it. It's got so much history, beautiful historical buildings. It's just a charming little town, and that's why we settled here.
And for our listeners, just so people know, because oftentimes people have no idea when they see if they're driving through New Mexico and they see the word Las Vegas, they're thinking Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas, New Mexico has been around a lot longer. If I'm not mistaken, Las Vegas, Nevada was started during World War II for returning, vets, a place in the middle of the desert to go gamble. Our Las Vegas, New Mexico, really caught on, and you can add to this. During the Santa Fe Trail in 1821, it was a major trading hub, and so our Las Vegas, it's actually Las Vegas, and Vegas are the wood beams that are found in homes and that type of thing. So our Las Vegas has been around a heck of a lot longer than Las Vegas, Nevada. So tell us a little bit about the history of Las Vegas.
Well, actually, Las Vegas is Spanish for the meadows, because it's very, climate change has made things a little different, but it's a little different than what you expect when you think of New Mexico. We are high desert, but lots of trees here, grass, green. It doesn't look very desert-like actually in Las Vegas compared to some other places in New Mexico. So that's what Las Vegas means actually in Spanish.
Well, see, I thought Vega, but the Vegas, the wood beams, I thought that was so my mistake then, but I thought it was named for the Vegas.
Yeah, I mentioned how it looks different here than it does in other places in New Mexico because of a lot of, we have tree-lined streets, and most of the homes on the street I live on, which is one of the main streets in Las Vegas, 7th Street, is filled with Victorians built in the 1800s.
And that's one of the things, and that's one of the things that always surprises me when I go to Las Vegas. It's so architecturally, it is so different than other parts of northern New Mexico. And so you're saying these houses were built in the 1800s. Do you think it was people that moved that traveled on the Santa Fe Trail and they settled there, or why do you? Or
well, actually,
when the train came in?
Yeah, what really made Las Vegas a boom town, and it was back in those days, it was one of the biggest cities in the whole Southwest, Las Vegas, and that's because of the railroad. We are a railroad town. We have the railroad. We have our right on Railroad Avenue. We have our visitor center right in the depot. I can walk down to the depot from my home. It's about a 10-minute walk. And when the railroad came here in 1879, we became a boom town. And that's when all these beautiful Victorians were built. Originally, the old town, or we call the West Side, where the plaza is and the Plaza Hotel, that was the original settlement area, mostly Hispanic. And when the railroad came, they built on the other side of the town. They built on the east side of town, and it became known as Newtown. So our town is really unique too. It's divided into West Side and East Side, Old Town and Newtown. And I live in Newtown, and this is on the side where the railroad is. And when all the people that came here to work for the railroad came, a lot of them came from the East. They came from Chicago, they came from New York, and they wanted to build homes that they were familiar with, which were Victorians. And so this side of town has got all the Victorians. The other side of town, the old town or the West Side, is got the adobes, territorial style, actually even older homes than the East Side. But both sides are unique and both sides are beautiful with all the architecture. We have over 900 historical homes and buildings on the National Register of Historic Places here in Las Vegas. And we're only, about a town of about 13,000 people. So really, you could say, it's probably more than most cities per capita than the whole United States in Las Vegas with historical homes.
And are these historical homes, are people actually living in them, or are they businesses or
Oh, no, there are a lot of businesses, because with that 900, that encompasses churches, hotels, and schools even. So all there's just so many interesting buildings. And one of the famous architects that was here in Las Vegas, Rap and Rap came here, and they designed a lot of our beautiful historic buildings. And then they went to Santa Fe, and one important building in Santa Fe, the La Fonda Hotel, they helped design. But they were here first in Las Vegas, designing a lot of art. And my home is actually, my Victorian, built in 1898, 1899, is a Rap and Rap home.
And people are going to want to know, because again, it is it's more expensive to live in Santa Fe, and people are moving to other parts of the state. What is the median cost of a home right now? Like your Victorian home, what would those houses cost more?
You still get a Victorian that needs to be renovated. We bought our house about 10 years ago. We were actually still living in Kuwait when we bought it. And I moved back early to renovate the house, which took almost 2 years. And we had on our property. At the time, because it was.
I'm sorry, we broke up a little bit. You want to repeat that? There was like a break in the communication.
Oh, okay. Our home was not very expensive because it needed to be totally renovated. And there are still homes around like that. You can still pick up a beautiful Victorian if you have the vision to see what it could look like when it's finished, just like our home was. So I know there was recently a beautiful big Victorian that sold for $200,000. And a man came here from California with his family, and they bought it. Of course, a Victorian in California, in San Diego area, or some of those areas where there are Victorians, is, well, that way more than $500,000. So this was a real deal. And he is just about finished renovating it.
So would you say that maybe you spend $200,000 for an old Victorian and it's going to cost another $100,000 to renovate, or?
Yeah, I would, it just really depends. This house was in very bad shape. We had to start at the top, new roof, new plumbing, new electricity. I mean, you name it, we had to do it. But the bones were here. The structure, it was a beautiful Rap and Rap designed home. It's got hardwood floors, parquet floors in the living room, quarter sawn oak wainscoting in the dining room, which I don't know if you can see, but I'm sitting in the dining room. So it had so many beautiful details, French doors and stained glass windows. And even though the house was in bad shape and the porch was falling apart and there was really not much of a kitchen, I walked in and I knew this was my house, and I wanted to I wanted to save it. You know, they're so beautiful when you see these old Victorians and all the detail and beautiful work done. And you think, oh my God, this house has to be saved. That's the way I felt. And it cost us about 140,000 or maybe a little bit more. I'd have to look back to renovate it. But we have a big, beautiful home with a guest house also.
Wow. So it's very economical. And I think you were saying that you're seeing more people that they feel that Santa Fe has gotten too expensive. So people from California and different places, they are starting to move to Las Vegas. Is that correct?
Well, they are. We have the climate is beautiful, almost the same. We're at 6,400 feet. Santa Fe, I believe, is 7,000.
We're at 72, 7199. So I always say 72. So we're a little higher, but you seem to get a lot more precipitation than we do.
We just had rain yesterday, and today we had a few snow flurries coming down, and that's why they called it the Meadows, because it did get more rain here, and that's why a lot of people have lawns, green grass, and tree-lined streets, which you don't see in New Mexico and even in Santa Fe. Of course, you don't see all these beautiful Victorians over there either, you know. And it's the same thing with Albuquerque. You know, they changed, they made way for more modern, but in Las Vegas, they didn't have the money here. We became a boom town, but then by the 20s, late 20s, we started to go into a decline, and Las Vegas didn't have the money to tear down the old buildings and old homes and put up new ones, things like that. It sort of just froze in time. And you know, twist of fate, we have now, as I said, over 900 historical homes and buildings because we didn't have the money to tear them down and put up new things. And well, I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I moved here, because it is so charming and it's so different. But it's still got the great climate of New Mexico, sunshine, and well, you know what it's like living in Santa Fe too. We have beautiful weather. How many days out of the year do we have sunshine, Anna?
It's at least 300, 320.
Yeah, at least 300. And and it's dry climate. It's not humid. So things actually are preserved better here too.
And you're just you're about a 20-minute drive to Story Lake and out there, or?
Yeah, we've got Story Lake, which is 5 minutes. It's a 5 mile outside. I think it's 5 miles outside of It's very close to Las Vegas. It's right in Las Vegas, I'd say. From my house, it takes me 10 minutes to get to Story Lake. We've got the hot springs here. We've got the Montezuma Hot Springs also. That's a 10-minute drive from here. And that's where the old Fred Harvey Montezuma Hotel sits, the castle. It's now the United World College. It's one of the places that I actually give tours at. And right below it is all our hot springs. And those are free. They're open to the public. Right now, because of COVID, things have changed and the springs are closed. And obviously, I'm not doing the tours. But once things are open again, it is a great place to go soak in those wonderful hot springs for free. I mean, how many other places have free hot springs right outside of town? So,
and you mentioned that you also give tours to people of Las Vegas, doctors in particular that are moving there. Tell us a little bit about the hospital, because, you know, in terms of employment, I guess the two major employers would be Highlands University and then the hospital. Is it called the New Mexico State Hospital, or what is it called?
New Mexico Highlands University.
Right. And then the hospital.
Alta Hospital. And then we also have the state hospital here.
Okay.
The Behavioral Health Hospital.
So those are the major employers, because again, many people watching this interview, they're probably more likely than not, they're going to be working remotely because, you know, New Mexico is we're a poorer state. We don't have a lot of economic opportunities, but there are some. So in Las Vegas, it would be the university and the two hospitals. Is that correct?
I would say those are arms of our town. Yes, I would say the university and Alta Vista and Behavioral Health Center are three large arms of the town. Yeah, definitely.
And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, we have Luna Community College here.
Okay.
We have the United World College, which is the only one in the United States. There's 17, or I think there's actually 18 right now. And the one in Montezuma is the only one in the United States. There are kids coming from over 95 different countries around the globe.
And so we're all interesting. Isn't it sponsored by Armour Hammer, the guy that made baking soda or something?
No, actually, that's a different Arm & Hammer.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, this is Armand Hammer, A-R-M-A-N-D. Armand Hammer, he was the owner and he was the developer of Occidental Petroleum, I think it was called, and back in the day. And he founded it. Yes, he founded it back in, I think it was 1981. I have to go back and look at my notes again. I haven't done a tour in a while.
I know. I do tours in Santa Fe, and I haven't done a tour in a while. I know.
Right. Kind of forget all your notes.
But it's an interesting concept. So basically, it's trying to bring high school students together from around the world to kind of learn how to interact in the world. And they're still in high school, so it's not even college age kids.
No, their last 2 years of high school. Kids are ages 16 to 19, basically.
I think, and and they have that great whatever that one room is where it was built, that famous architect who, it's like you're in this room with, even if you go at night, the prisms, the lighting I've been there. It is incredible.
Yes, it is amazing. It's just a beautiful place, and people are in awe when I give tours there. And I'm lucky that I'm able to give tours there because I'm actually the only tour guide they allow in there. But we're associated with the school as far as being getaway family for students. Ever since we've lived here for 9 years, we've taken in so many students. Right now, I have 3 students from there. I have 3 girls, one from Great Britain, one from El Salvador, and I have a girl from Miriam from Egypt. So every year we get, they graduate, some graduate. The one girl is new, so she'll be here with us for 2 years, Jess from England. But so we get new kids all the time, and we have them. If a lot of times kids can't, even go home on their breaks because they're coming from a country that is in, problems, like Syria, for instance, or even Egypt. And so they'll stay with us. And even over their summer breaks, we've had many kids stay with us over their summer breaks.
So then, because of the university and the hospital and in the school, there's in terms of demographics, there's a nice diversity of people in the town.
I think so too. And Highlands University also has a lot of international students because the tuition there is quite reasonable. So because of that, you'll get a lot of foreign students there also. Yeah, it's a great, and coming from the Middle East, and which is also very diverse. I've got friends from all over the world that I've met. And coming here, it was, it was kind of fun because I go up to the World College and I meet kids from, Morocco and Egypt and England and Spain and, everywhere. And, it was the same actually in Kuwait. So, and Highlands.
Las Vegas, New Mexico is an interesting pocket of New Mexico. Tell us just a little bit since you do tours about Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders. What's the connection to Las Vegas? I know there's a museum up there.
Yeah, there's the Rough Rider Museum. We have actually a lot of interesting places to see and do while you're here.
But what is the connection to Teddy Roosevelt? Did they actually stay in Las Vegas?
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt had his first Rough Rider. He came here right after the Casaneta was built, actually. Fred Harvey offered the best service. The railroad offered free transportation. And so Teddy Roosevelt had his first Rough Rider reunion here in Las Vegas in 1899, right after the Casaneta was built. So that became, and they came back several times. And so this became more like Teddy Roosevelt's,
stomping ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Rough Riders camped all over town. They camped at Lincoln Park. There's a lot of great stories about Teddy Roosevelt being here in Las Vegas. But that's the connection because they wanted to have a Rough Rider reunion. There were cities all over the country that were vying for Teddy Roosevelt to have their reunion in their town, but they picked Las Vegas. Well, some of the Rough Riders were actually from Las Vegas and from the area. And then also the brand new Casaneta Hotel that Fred Harvey had. And, Fred Harvey's known for the best food and best service, and we have a railroad town, so it was perfect.
But you're correct. There were people from around here because it was for the Spanish-American War. He tried to, Roosevelt tried to recruit Spanish-speaking people, and he also went. It wasn't just New Mexico; it was parts of Texas. You know, again, Spanish speakers that were used to like a hotter climate because they were going to be, you know, they were fighting in Cuba and different places. So that was one of the things. Right. Another interesting thing about Las Vegas for our listeners is that the Montefiore Cemetery is one of the largest Jewish cemeteries. There used to be west of the Mississippi, and that is because prior to the railroad coming in, again, it started with the the Santa Fe Trail, the Jewish merchants that would travel on the trail. They didn't come all the way to Santa Fe where it ended. They actually set up shop in Las Vegas. But getting back to real estate, because I know this is all about thinking about, you know, getting information about moving to Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I know you're going to have your real estate license in 2021. In addition to the old Victorian houses, what other type of housing is available in Las Vegas right now, do you think?
For rent or for sale, are you talking about?
I mean, that's another good question. Are there a lot of rentals there available? Because I know Santa Fe, because we're such a tourist town, everything's been Airbnb, so it's really hard to find long-term rentals here. How is the rental market in Las Vegas?
Well, actually, the city's looking at that right now because we do have a lot of people coming in here. And as I said, I do tours for the hospital. They ask me about rentals, and they also ask me about places for sale. So the city's looking into developing some more areas. So we are, you know, we do have a bit of a shortage also for rentals because of the university being right here in town also. A lot of students rent things. We have a guest house on our property. I rent out to a dean at the university. So, you know, professors, doctors, nurses, they're all looking at, you know, we do have Airbnbs here also. And because a lot of these old Victorians do have guest house on the property, they get rented out. But we don't have big apartment complexes and things like that. But the city is looking at actually developing some more rentals because we do have a bit of a shortage also.
And what are the time, in addition to the old Victorian houses, you're saying there's the old part of Las Vegas. So are there adobe houses or tract homes for sale?
Oh, yeah. We have some great, beautiful, historic adobes. In fact, a friend of mine just bought an old adobe on the west side, and she's looking to rent it. In fact, she was just asking me about pricing and rental, you know, things like that. So
there's some good options for people watching this program about to consider looking at Las Vegas, New Mexico, if Santa Fe's not in their budget, or they're just looking for maybe something that's a little bit different than Santa Fe.
Well, it's fun because, yeah, we have so many different styles of homes and architecture. Almost every kind of architecture you could imagine, from the 1800s all the way to 1960. You drive through different parts of town, and we do have a section where there's a lot of newer homes also. And there is one development further out on 7th Street, going towards Story Lake, where it is a new development, and they will build a house to suit. But we don't have a lot of apartment complexes and things like that. But I think it's beautiful because, you know, I would rather rent an old adobe home or something attached to property, a beautiful little guest house, than a modern apartment anyway. You know,
Las Vegas is a very quaint pocket in northern New Mexico that people ought to consider. I want to thank you. We're out of time here. I'm looking for good luck with your, I know as we speak, you're studying to get your license. So I'll get you back on the show in 2021, and we'll talk more about real estate and then I'm assuming that in addition to selling in Las Vegas, you'll go into, outside of, in San Miguel County, you'll be selling it outside of the city as well, right?
Oh yeah, I plan to. Yeah. I mean, the whole area is so absolutely gorgeous. And as you know, so it's just fun just to drive around and show people. That's what I do all the time when a hospital calls me to give a tour to a doctor or a nurse. They're amazed 5 minutes out of town. They're in, Montezuma or out towards Story Lake, and it's wide open spaces, and it's just, you know, no traffic. It's fabulous.
It's beautiful. So, right. Well, listen, again, thank you for your time, and we'll do this again in 2021. And Kathy, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay.